Hello and welcome to lesson 16 of the C2 level. My name's Natalie. I'm going to be with you for the next 5 classes. And if you don't know me, just a really brief introduction. I'm from London. I grew up in South London and I lived there. I also went to university in London as well. And then I lived there until I was about 24, and then I went to Greece for a year, and then I went back to London, and then when I was about 27, I moved to Spain, and I've been here for like over 20 years, so a long time. Obviously I go back to England frequently to visit my family. My brother and his children live there, my mum lives there, so I go back and forth quite a lot between Spain and the UK. So anyway, I thought I'd give you a quick introduction, and also it is relevant to the subject of today's lesson. So as you saw here, the title of the lesson is The Cycle of Life, and it's related to talking about different life stages and some of vocabulary and expressions. Some of them you might be familiar with. That's okay. It's always good to have a kind of recap to review some of the vocabulary and get you kind of using it by having more exposure to it. And some of it hopefully will be new for you as well. Okay, so I'm going to go through what I'm going to look at. So first of all, we'll look at the vocabulary and expressions. Then we'll do a little listening, which is based on a true story, not related to myself, but related to 2 friends of mine. And then we'll do a quick test. And then obviously for subscribers, you can access the test at the end of the lesson. Okay, so starting with the topic here, I chose this image here to kind of introduce the topic. This photo was taken, I think, last spring. And it's a photo of my nephew George, who is the youngest person in the family. In this photo, I think he was 4 years old, and he's running in a field near my mum's house, which is it's on the edge of London, so it's kind of in the countryside. And I really like this photo because it's kind of depicts a little bit about the race of life. You bring up your child and then they run away from you towards this sort of big tree, which is life, and you can branch off in any direction. So that's why I chose this image to sort of introduce this lesson. So now we're going to have a little look at some vocabulary. So here I've got some stages of life, so birth, growing up and adulthood. You'll notice under the first one, birth, I actually put the word cravings. Now, cravings is not related to birth, it's something that happens during pregnancy. It did happen to me. I was thinking it didn't happen to me, but it did with my first pregnancy. I actually had cravings for red licorice, which is like, normally licorice is black, but I had cravings for red licorice. But apart from that, I didn't have any strange cravings. But it's when you really, really have a desire to eat something specific. Apparently it's because your body is like asking for something, but I can't imagine my body was asking for red licorice. So this is something that happens before birth. When people are talking about birth, you say things like, did you have an easy labour or a difficult labour? Maybe your mum will say, I had a very long labour. So labour is the process of giving birth. And, some people are very lucky and it's very quick, and some people, it takes a long time. And then also you can be born in a hospital, or you can have a home birth, which is called home birth, which is becoming more popular in the UK at the moment. So you do have a choice about where your baby's born. You also have things like being premature, So it means that basically the baby comes out too early, or the opposite, which was me. Apparently my mum said I was very comfortable and I didn't want to come out. So I was supposed to be born at the end of November, and I was born on the 10th of December. Okay, and then you've got growing up, things like terrible twos. We talk about the terrible twos in the UK, which is basically that time when children are going through tantrums, you know, where they say, can I have an ice cream at 8 o'clock in the morning? And you say no, and then they go, ah! They get completely crazy. One of my daughters, when she had a tantrum, she used to take all her clothes off. Not in public, luckily, but in the house. My other daughter used to just throw things. So yeah, terrible twos are quite terrible. But as I say to a lot of parents, sometimes they last longer than the terrible twos. So it can go on for years. I don't want to discourage you, but it's true. Anyway, also other things, imaginary friend. Me and my brother had an imaginary friend for a while. We knew she wasn't real, but she lived behind the sofa, and she was called Penny. I don't know what she was doing behind the sofa, but we used to have tea with Penny behind the sofa sometimes. So yeah, going through adolescence. So when you're a teenager, it can be a difficult time. It can also be quite a magical time. It depends. I was actually a very good teenager, so I didn't really have any problems with my parents. I think I was quite lucky, really. I got on really well with my brother as well. I had quite an easy... adolescence is never easy, is it? Because you have all the problems. I had a lot of problems with friends, you know, kind of peer pressure and things like that. I found that a bit stressful. So I guess that's normal. And then, my mum used to say this to me and I hated it. I went through a phase. So you go through a phase where I was absolutely convinced that my mum loved the dog more than she loved me. And instead of my mum, you know, just giving me extra hugs, she would just say, oh, you're crazy, it's just a phase. So we use this a lot to kind of dismiss bad or strange behaviour, which I don't know whether, you know, it's like the terrible twos is a phase as well. And then, of course, you leave home, start growing up, spread your wings. That's quite a nice idiomatic expression for leaving home. You spread your wings. You're going to a new place. And then adulthood. I mean, it looks a bit depressing, but I put some nouns here because they're things that we quite often talk about. Marriage, separation, divorce, remarriage. Doesn't happen to everyone, obviously. But you would say, these are the nouns here. So you'd say to get married, to separate, to get divorced, to remarry. Of course, you can have children or not. It's not the only life choice for everyone. You might work and get promoted, or you might go through a period in your life of loss and grief. Okay, so grief is the process of when you've lost something. Usually it's related to death, but not always. And sometimes in life we go through difficult times, we go through hard times, we go through tough times. So that is part of living. And hopefully you get over it. So you fully recover or you become a different person. I recommend there are some TED Talks related to grieving. And they're really, really enlightening. So if you do a Google search on that, you should find some. And this is another one as well. You can say, this is quite often used when talking about relationships. Like you say, well, our relationships had its ups and downs, but in the end we decided to get together. Or I heard my friend saying this the other day. He was saying, he's divorced now, and he said to me, "Oh, I just thought we were having, ups and downs," but he didn't realise that in fact his partner was very unhappy. So there we are. It's an expression we use quite a lot when talking about relationships. Then you've got things related to age, middle age, old age. You might have health issues or health problems, and retirement. And retirement can be a very happy time when you can travel, but it does depend a lot on your financial situation. So, for example, I know people who really do enjoy their retirement. They had a private pension and they can travel all over the world. And then I also know people who actually find it quite difficult, the period of being retired, because they don't have very much money, and so they have to live quite a frugal lifestyle. So it depends, really. Alright, so here's some phrases. I'm just going to put these on for you. I'm going to just put it on like that. Okay. So here you've got some nice phrases. Just read through them and see if you can complete them. Right, I'm going to tell you the answers now. So obviously if you're not ready, you can pause the video. So the first one, let's read through them. This first sentence here should be quite easy. The second sentence, the second word, I have put a clue in for you because I think it might be a bit difficult, but it's related to an expression. So let's have a look at the answers. Oh, I don't have the answers. Okay, I'm going to tell you the answers. Right, so I went through a hard time when I was a teenager, but I soon got over it when I went to university. After I left home, I rented a flat with some friends. It was a bit of a dive, but it didn't matter. So here, we're saying that something is a dive. That means it's something that's not very luxurious, maybe dark, and perhaps a bit dirty and run down. So if you say somewhere's a dive, it's not really a complimentary way to describe something. So you could say the nightclub was a dive, the bar was a dive, the apartment he lived in was a dive. Okay, so it's a very negative way to explain somewhere, and for me it implies somewhere kind of dark as well. Okay, and let's go back to what we had. Right, so when I lost my mother at the age of 20, it was a real trauma. So quite often when we're talking about death, we do actually use this word to lose someone. So if you say I lost my mother at the age of 10, I know that you're talking about losing someone in terms of to illness or death. You could say it was a real trauma or it was a real shock. So these are some sentences that people might use to talk about their lives. So what I'm going to do now is a little listening task. So this listening task, what does it involve? It involves me telling you a true story. I just want you to listen and enjoy it. But before we do, we're just going to look at some vocabulary and some nice expressions, and some of them come up in the story. So I just want you to see which ones you can hear, as well as listening and enjoying the story. So just give me a second. So as I said, this is based on a true story. So here are some vocabulary and expressions. So the first one, we've got a confirmed bachelor. To set your heart on something. A whirlwind romance. To sing someone's praises. to feel something in your bones. I felt it in my bones. To pour your heart out, to have something on your doorstep, to land a job. Right, so a confirmed bachelor. Let's see, I don't know which ones you know and which ones you don't know. I'm just going to talk through them quickly. So a confirmed bachelor means a man, usually in their 40s or 30s, who people can never ever see getting married, ever. To set your heart on something, it means you really, really desire something and you are making it happen. So you say, for example, I've set my heart on studying in the UK. So it's something that you kind of are desiring and are putting in, I would say you're actually putting plans into action to make it happen. So it's not something impossible, it's not an impossible desire, it's something that actually you're working towards and you're hopefully going to get there. A whirlwind romance. It's one of these romances that happen really quickly, and after 3 weeks people get married. Okay, to sing someone's praises is speak very positively about somebody. My mum's always singing my praises. Oh, bless her. She's like, oh, my daughter's so lovely. She's biased. Okay, to feel something in your bones. I love this expression. Do you have an expression like this in your language? So this is when you know something kind of intuitively. So, for example, okay, I'm going to use an example. I adopted a dog, very smelly dog, but I adopted a dog about 6 months ago. Now, I'd been looking for a dog to adopt. I didn't want a big dog. I was doing it for my children, really, not for me. And I'd been looking at pictures of dogs to adopt, hundreds of pictures. I only wanted a small one. And then I saw this dog, and I just knew it. I could feel it in my bones that was our dog. I looked at this dog and I was like, that dog is ours. We have to get that dog. And sure enough, the next day or 2 days later, we got the dog. To pour your heart out. This is when you tell somebody all your secrets, I love the expression, it's kind of like, ooh, you can imagine someone just like pouring out all their feelings from their heart. To have something on your doorstep, when you go looking for something and you travel all over the world to find it, and then you realise you had it on your doorstep all the time. I think it speaks for itself. And to land a job. Land a job is the same as to get a job, but it does have a slightly more positive way, perhaps something a bit more surprising, a job that you're kind of happy about. And perhaps maybe it was even surprising. Alright, so this is the listening. Right. This is basically a little true story about 2 friends of mine, Tina and Dave. And let's have a look. One moment. Just want to make sure. Yeah. So Tina and Dave. So basically, Tina and Dave, they are from the same village in the west of England. And they went to school together, but Dave is actually older than Tina, so they never actually knew, the families knew each other because the mums were friends, but they didn't know each other. Anyway, when Dave was about, he must have been about 33, he went to live in Hong Kong. And he worked there as a journalist, and he stayed there for 10 years, and everybody just thought he was a confirmed bachelor. And basically, my friend Tina, when she was about 35, she decided to go. She'd been living in Spain for a long time, and she decided to go to Hong Kong. She had never, or not for a long time, she hadn't had a relationship, but she wasn't worried. She didn't want to have children. She was quite happy. She was quite focused on her career, which is why she went to Hong Kong. Anyway, she went there, and because the parents knew each other, and because the two of them were in Hong Kong and Tracy had just arrived, and at that point Dave had already been there for quite a few years, the mums put them in touch, and so they met up for dinner. Now, basically they met up for dinner, and you can imagine what happened. They started a whirlwind romance, but Tina was really embarrassed because she was like, oh no, this is a boy from my village, and we even went to the same school, and she'd really set her heart on either just being single for her whole life, or meeting some exotic foreigner. And there she was with Dave, who was, grew up 3 streets away from her. But basically, the truth was that they actually fell in love, and so they couldn't do anything about it. And now they live back in the UK now, and they've been together for over 10 years, and they're very happy. And so it was a whirlwind romance that actually ended up becoming quite a nice story. And Tina's mum claims that she says that when she put the two of them in touch, she just knew. She said, I felt it in my bones. I knew those two would get together. I knew it. So there we are. Sometimes you travel all the way around the world to find love, but you had it on your doorstep all the time. So there we are. Okay. So to go back now, just give me 1 second. Hello. So here we are. We've got some of the expressions. So which ones came up? Right, well, I'm going to tell you which ones I didn't say, but I could have said. So I didn't say to land a job. However, Tracy did land a job in Hong Kong, and that's why she went there in the first place, but I didn't say it. I also didn't say to pour your heart out. So Tina didn't, in the end, she I don't know whether she poured her heart out or whether Dave poured his heart out, but I could have said that at some point. And what else? And I didn't say to sing someone's praises either, which, remember, is to be really positive about someone. However, I did say the other ones. I said that Dave was a confirmed bachelor, that Tina had set her heart on actually, either being single her whole life or finding some exotic foreigner to fall in love with. I said that Tina's mum and Dave's mum had felt something in their bones about the two of them getting together. And I said that they had a whirlwind romance, and I also said that, sometimes you travel a long way when actually you have something on your doorstep the whole time. So I hope you got all those expressions. There's some really nice ones there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go through a quick test. So I'll put them on the screen, and then you can pause the video, give yourself a chance to do it, and then I'll put the answers on, okay? So here we go. Here's the test, the first one. My daughter is a teenager and she's going through a terrible boob. She doesn't want to leave her room. And the answer is phase. People say that grief isn't something that you get, but in fact it is something that changes you. And the answer is over. They met 2 months ago, and after a whoop, they eloped and got married against their parents' wishes. A whirlwind romance. As soon as I set eyes on him, this is a brilliant expression, by the way. As soon as I set eyes on the photo of my dog, or Kiku, I just knew. So as soon as I set eyes on him, I knew we would be together. I could, and the answer is, feel it in my bones. So there we had a quick test, and now for this last section, ask yourself these questions. Perhaps you could try writing down the answers, and you could try putting in some of the vocabulary from today. So what's the hardest thing in your life you have gone through? Have you ever had a whirlwind romance? And if you haven't, would you like one? And who would you like one with? Do you know any confirmed bachelors? Perhaps you're one yourself. When's the last time you poured your heart out to someone? Or maybe you never have. Or maybe you do it all the time. Or maybe you know someone who does it too much. Does your best friend ever sing your praises? And if your best friend does sing your praises, what do they say about you? Do you know anyone who's landed a good job recently? And if you could land a really good job, what would it be? Okay, well that is the end of this lesson 16. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've certainly enjoyed telling the story of Tina and Dave. I hope they don't mind. And I will see you in the next lesson. I'm just going to leave you now with this lovely image of my nephew George running towards that big tree. Let's hope he has a happy life ahead of him. Okay. Thank you very much. Goodbye, and I'll see you in lesson 17. Thank you.